And I'll say a qualified yes.
And there's 100% occupancy in building 6.
So you maybe have to answer out loud.
Your Honor, it was not a question, it was a statement.
I think it was a question.
That was what she nodded. That's why.
Yes.
Could you take a look at tab 6, 195?
Then the white binder?
Yes. And again, I'll put it up if you want to. Is that an email from Joe Keto to your boss, Dan Yampich?
Appears to be.
And that's on June 12th, 2006?
Yes.
And Joe Keto was asking Mr. Yampich if you had any idea when payment on draw 6 was going to be processed, wasn't it?
That's what it says.
So, Fifth Third has had the draw request for a month now, haven't it?
That wasn't addressed to me, so I would have no idea how long.
Well,
Right.
we reviewed earlier the draw request was made on May 12th. You recall that?
Yes.
And now here's an email from Joe Keto to Dan Yampich on June 12th asking what's the status. Fifth Third's had the draw request for over a month and it hasn't been paid. Isn't that correct?
If it was submitted on May 12th and he received that email, which I was not copied on, then yes.
And Joe Keto talked to you too that the subs were becoming concerned about these delays in payment, weren't they?
Yes, I spoke to the subs.
Let's go to 198. Now the next day, on June 13th, you told Rich that the inspecting architect had some issues with the project. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And what time did you email Rich?
It appears to be 9:21 a.m.
And didn't Joe Keto respond to you promptly? Could you turn to the next page, 199? Didn't Joe Keto respond to you promptly?
What do you consider promptly?
In less than an hour?
Yes.
And he wanted to know from you, what are these issues? Could you tell us so we can gather some information and get you what you want? Isn't that what he was asking?
Yes.
But you overlooked his email because you were busy, right?
I don't recall that.
So let's go to the next page then, 200. Did you overlook his email because you were busy?
Yes, that's what I stated in here.
And you didn't know what the issues were, did you? The engineer.
The engineering report is an independent report that's done by people that are qualified to assess construction. That's not my area of expertise.
And that wasn't my question. My question was, the previous day you had told Rich the engineer has issues. And Joe said, could you tell us what they are? And your answer was, I don't know. Wasn't it?
That's correct.
Now, you've seen the engineer's report, haven't you?
Which engineer's report?
The Banks engineer, First Indiana. It's the Joint Exhibits tab 18. If you look at page 212, according to the engineer, the project was still on schedule, wasn't it?
Yes.
Quality of the project was good.
Yes.
And his only concern was there was some confusion about building designation. Was it building 5 or building 6?
Yes.
And we all know that if you drive by the site, this is the building, right? Building 5 or building 6?
Yes.
And there was some materials, the flexicord, stored off-site.
Is that a question?
That was the other issue, wasn't it?
Yes.
And those were the only issues that the inspecting architect had.
The ones that he stated are the ones that he had.
And you were still holding up the draw request, weren't you? Because of this issue.
No.
Well, had you funded the draw as of June the 16th?
No.
So it's been from May 12th now to June 16th, and you still haven't funded the draw. And you know the subject concern.
Is that a question?
Yes,
I
it is.
have to interject. He has to ask questions. It's statement after statement, it's all argumentative. He has to ask a question.
Let me rephrase. Would you agree that now more than a month has passed, the subs are concerned, and you still haven't funded the draw because some of the flexicor is being stored off-site?
Which I'm going to object because she can't possibly know what the subs were concerned or not, nor has he specified which subs.
You were holding up the draw.
Wasn't there an email to that effect?
I'm sorry?
Was it, didn't she acknowledge getting an email to the effect that the subs were concerned?
One subcontractor,
The subs.
he inquired about his payment. I don't know what concerns were like. I just inquired when the draw was coming. That was the testimony.
I think we've established Mr. Keogh had told you that the subs were concerned.
Yes.
And he even emailed that to Mr. Yantich.
In the prior email?
Yes. And as of June 16th, you're still holding the draw, aren't you?
Apparently, yes.
So finally, we turn to 203, tab 6. On June 23rd, you emailed you to release the funds of the previous day. Is that correct?
Yes.
So it's been about a month and 2 weeks from the time the draw was submitted to you release the funds?
Yes.
You also oversaw draw 7, didn't you?
Yes.
Could you turn to tab 7A? 244. On July 13th, Joe Keogh emailed you that he wanted to meet with you to go over the draw 7, didn't he?
Yes.
And did you meet with him to go over the draw before he submitted it?
I don't recall, but I could have.
On page 243. Didn't you tell him just go ahead and submit it?
Yes.
So Mr. Keogh was trying to meet with you to put together the draw that would be acceptable to you, wasn't he? He wanted your input. He was trying to do it the way the bank wanted.
Objection calls for speculation as to what Mr. Keogh wanted.
What was the question?
Was it your understanding that Mr. Keogh was trying to meet with you to go over the draw first to make sure he submitted to the bank what it wanted?
I would say no.
Well, you knew he wanted to meet with you to go over the draw before he submitted it, didn't he?
Yes.
And wasn't he looking for your input?
He might have been asking questions. I don't know.
Now, Mr. Keogh submitted the draw on July 13th, didn't he?
Is that the date on it?
It's tab 7A, 247.
Is the question, did he submit it on July 13th?
Yes.
Yes.
And what was the total amount of the draw request that Joe Keogh submitted on July 13th? It's on page 215.
$887,534.29.
And what was the total cost listed in Mr. Keogh's email?
$9,400,358.
And that's the number that had been agreed upon since the beginning, isn't it?
I'm assuming so, yes.
And could you turn to 252? Did you tell Mr. Keogh on July 17th the draw 7 would be funded sometime that day?
I said it should take place. I will check on this and get back to you.
But draw 7 wasn't funded on July 17th, was it?
I don't know what day it was funded.
Let's turn to 254, please.
Which is good.
We're still in tab 7A, right? Did Mr. Keogh ask you on Friday, July 21st, if you'd heard anything more on draw 7?
Yes.
Did you respond to him?
Yes.
The following week? Did you?
Friday, July 21st, and it looks like I responded Friday, July 21st.
You told me you were out of the office
Yes.
and you had issues with the draw.
Yes.
Did you tell him what the issues were?
Not in the email.
Did you tell him that I will be sending you a new sworn to notarize?
That's what was stated in here.
So as of Friday, it was your plan that you were going to send City Center a revised sworn.
I did not revise this sworn.
Well, you were sending him a new sworn. It wasn't City Center sworn. You were going to have a new one to send to him.
Yes.
And did you email him again on Monday? I'm looking at page 257.
Yes, I did.
You told him that these issues would be resolved on Monday, didn't you?
There are still a couple of issues will be resolved today.
Did you get them resolved on Monday?
I don't recall if I did.
Well, the draw wasn't funded on Monday, was it?
I don't know.
Let's look at page 258. Now, on Wednesday, July 26th, did you send a new sworn to Mary and Joe Keogh at City Center in Hawk?
Apparently there was a sworn attached or an Excel document attached to it.
So this is the new sworn you were talking about that you were sending to them.
I don't know. I don't have a copy of it.
Well, let's take a look at it. Page 258, 259. That's the attachment, isn't it?
I don't know. That's the attachment.
Well, assuming that page 259 was the attachment to page 258 as it appears in the documents, is this the revised sworn that you sent to me?
Well, that's an assumption. I don't know if that was the right document, but if you want me to assume.
Well, why don't you tell the jury what is the new sworn that you sent to Mr. Keto and Mary?
Is this the sworn that you're asking me to make those assumptions on?
I mean, this was the document that was produced to me attached to that email.
I asked you if you wanted me to assume if that was the document that was attached.
It's your email. I don't want you to assume anything. I want you to tell the jury about the email, the sworn you had attached to your email.
I'll be happy to.
Okay? Is this it?
I don't know.
Your Honor, she gets to answer the prior question before you ask us another one.
I don't know if that's the document that was attached. I haven't seen the email or the attachment together. I don't know if that was attached. If you want me to assume that, I can do that.
Do you know where this, on page 259, you see the total cost of the project now?
Yes.
And what is it?
$6,129,762.58.
At every point prior to this, the total cost of the project had been $9,400,358, hadn't it?
It was in the prior to that scene, yes.
And you went over this with Mr. Woodward earlier. With a $9.4 million budget, there was still $3.3 million left on the loan, wasn't there? Remember you had to add that up on the little tape?
Yes.
On this one, it's been reduced to $1.6 million, hasn't it?
Of the dry requests remaining, yes.
And you expected City Center to complete all 4 buildings for $1.6 million, didn't you?
No. It's their choice to submit and sign a sworn statement.
Sure. Can you take a look at page 169 of your deposition? Do you see I asked you at line 21, and so that was your expectation as of July 26th, that you would have 4 completed buildings and site work for $6.129 million? The answer, I suppose. That was your sworn testimony, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
If Fifth Third reduced the total cost of the buildings from $9.4 million to $6.1 million, that would be a significant deviation from the loan agreement, wouldn't it?
Yes.
And you couldn't reasonably expect City Center to complete all 4 buildings for $3.3 million less, could you?
Do you want me to answer that? I'm not a contractor.
Well, you were a commercial lender with real estate experience,
Yes.
and you knew this project had a budget of $9.4 million for 4 buildings, and now it's been reduced in July, 9 months later, by $3.3 million. And you reasonably expect that City Center could complete the project for $6.1 million.
Yes.
And you told Joe and Mary in the email, have Rich sign and notarize this and send it back, didn't you?
With the adjustments on it,
Yes.
whatever were made?
Yes. So here you are on July 26th. The subs are getting restless. City Center's worried about liens. They have a choice from you. They can sign this revised sworn for $6.1 million, or they don't get funds.
That's not true.
right? You told them, sign and notarize. If they do that, you're going to give them funds, aren't you?
Was there an implied threat in there that they would not get funding?
You wanted them to sign and notarize, and you provide the funds, right?
They are an equal party in the contract. They had the option to sign or notarize whatever they chose to, and I'm assuming that they would sign something that was truthful.
Did you believe that the $6.1 million on the sworn that appears on page 259 was the true contract price?
For the buildings that we were talking about, yes.
For all 4 buildings in the site?
I don't think that was what was referred to in that document, but that was the...
Well, let's compare them. Let's take a minute to compare them. You heard Mr. Woodward say maybe it's exactly half. Could you look at the sworn...
I didn't say maybe it's exactly half. That's a misstatement. And plus, I ask questions. I don't testify.
You recall Mr. Woodward asked you, wasn't the masonry reduced from $2 million to $1 million? And isn't that half? And he went down looking at some of those and said, isn't it half?
Yes.
And he suggested to the jury that what you were doing is only funding 2 buildings now. You recall him suggesting that too?
I don't recall him suggesting that, no.
Or couldn't it be just 2 buildings?
Yes.
But in fact, your own testimony was you still expected 4 buildings for this price.
There was work done already that was pre-done, and some of that is not an equal across the board. Some of it had to be done all at one time.
And let's take a look at, let's start with collects. On the sworn statement that Mr. Keogh submitted to you, how much were the previous payments on the $9.4 million document? Page 251.
What were the prior payments? Is that the question?
Yes.
175, 973.40.
Now, those are the dollars that have been paid after the inspecting architect has come out and approved the work, correct? That's how it works. Mm-hmm. Now, let's turn back to page 259. What's the prior payment listed there for coax?
109,473.30.
So even though they've been paid $175,000 on this revised sworn, it's been reduced to $109,000. Is that correct?
On the sworn, yes.
Let's go back to page 251. How much had Hawk been paid previously?
$937,583.06.
And what was that reduced to in the...
$813,584.20.
And one more, how about C&B Steel? What was listed in Mr. Keogh's sworn?
448, 328,050.
What was that reduced to?
179,550.
As you sit here today, can you tell the jury where these numbers came from in the revised sworn?
Yes, I can.
And how these payments went back to less?
Yes.
All right. How did you decrease the payments?
I did not decrease anything. The sworn construction statement needs to be match the contracts for each of the subcontractors. The amounts that were listed on the construction statement included developer's profit. And in speaking with regular clients about how to prepare a construction statement, you always list the contract amount on the sworn construction statement. and do a line item for developers' profit and overhead.
Now, the way the subs were paid is through the title company, right?
Yes.
So the Fifth Third would advance the money to the title company, and the title company would write a check to the sub, co-ops, for example.
I'm assuming that's their procedure.
So let's go back then to 251. How much had been previously paid to co-ops?
$175,973.40.
And that's all money that went to co-ops, isn't it? That's the way it worked.
I haven't seen the check, but yes, I would assume that that's what it was.
And on page 259, what's it been reduced to?
$109,473.30.
Co-ops didn't pay the money back, did it?
I don't know.
So again, do you have any explanation for why there's that reduction in this revised sworn?
I would have to look at the title company documents and the checks.
And in fact, while all this delay was going on, the subs had put a lien on the property, hadn't they?
I'm not aware of a lien on the property. I was not aware at that time.
As you said here today, you don't know if there was a lien put on the property?
I don't recall a lien being on the property.
You knew the subs were getting nervous about the delays.
Yes.
Now let's take a look at draw 8. Did Mr. Keogh, on page 282, tell you that once again that on August 14th we wanted to get together with you to go over and find out what do you want for your draw request?
Yes.
And can you go? Did Mary email you on August 17th asking you what are you going to submit for draw number 8?
Yes.
So at that point, nobody at City Center or Hawk knows what he wants to do that.
It doesn't matter what I want submitted. It's up to them to submit their draws.
Well, aren't they trying to meet with you and ask you what do you want?
It's not my choice to determine how they pay their draws.
No, but you decide whether or not they get paid.
I'm not the ultimate decision on that, but yes, I have a role in that process.
I mean, wouldn't it be a smart thing if you're a customer with a construction loan to try and reach out to your banker and say, what do you want? Please tell me what you want. I'm going to try and do it the way you want.
I think I told them repeatedly that I wanted financial statements, leases, proof of equity, compliance documents.
I'm asking about this.
Your Honor, let her finish.
It's not
Finish your answer.
All right. She responded. Finish your question.
When the contractor's preparing the sworn, wouldn't a smart customer call up the bank and say, could you tell us how you want us to do this? What do you want us to put in for these numbers? Help us do it so it's in a form that's acceptable to you?
No. That is based on what was billed to them from their subcontractors.
So in July, the total contract price has been reduced from $9.4 million to $6.1. The payments that had previously been made have been reduced. You don't think it was a prudent thing for Hawk and City Center to call you and say, what do you want us to do with the next one? How do you want us to do it?
They certainly had the right to call us at any time to ask questions.
And don't you think as a bank who's a partner in this loan that you should be assisting them to understand why these revisions are done and what to submit to get approved?
I think we attempted to assist them for months.
Did you tell Mary, here's how I think you should prepare draw number 8? Here's how we're revising these things?
I don't recall doing that, no.
Didn't Joe Keogh ask you again for an update? Did Mary ask you again for an update?
Is that in the email?
Sure, page 290. Mary sent an email to Sam, who's also at Fifth Third, right?
There are a lot of Sams at Fifth Third. who
Sam
are-
Rufus?
Yes.
Asking for an update.
Yes.
And at this point, City Center is looking to the bank to provide the corrected swarms. It doesn't know what the bank wants anymore, does it?
I can't speak for City Center.
Aren't they asking for the corrected sworn statements?
Was that addressed to me?
That was addressed to Sam Rufus at Fifth Third. Someone that you've worked with, right?
Do you want me to answer on his behalf?
No, I'm asking if Sam Rufus is someone you worked with at Fifth Third.
Yes.
And isn't Mary asking someone at Fifth Third, one of your colleagues, for the corrected sworn?
It appears in the email that yes, that's the case.
And on page 291, on August 30th, wasn't Joe asking for an update?
Yes.
He was asking, wondering, could you please help? Wasn't.
I'll read it. Yes, we're wondering if you could help.
And you told him that in your response, that you thought the project was over budget and behind schedule.
That's correct.
But in fact, the construction was on budget and was on schedule, wasn't it?
I was referring to the economic project.
My question, the construction was on budget, wasn't it?
No.
Well, didn't you have your inspector go out and confirm that?
Yes.
Could you take a look at page 185 of your deposition?
Yes.
Did I ask you, so as you sit here today, you have no dispute that the city center construction... Line 24. So as you sit here today, you have no dispute that the city center construction was on schedule and on budget as of August 30th. Answer, I guess. You know, I mean, I'm not qualified to answer the question except for what I've read in the architect's report. So if you want to take that as a yes, that's fine. That was your testimony, wasn't it?
That was my testimony.
And you knew that there were tenants in the first floor of Building 2, Cold Stone, Z Grill, and Anytime Fitness.
Yes.
You knew that the Ms. Bowerman, formerly Mrs. Plank, wanted to put the restaurant in Building 6.
Did I know that?
Yes.
She had a lease. Yes. Not an arm's length lease, but yes.
And you knew that Mr. Plank had finished out a condo and had a lease for that upstairs in Building 2.
Yes.
And in fact, he still lives there today, doesn't he?
I have no idea.
But you transferred the project to special assets.
Yes.
And somebody else had to handle the project after that.
Yes.
This wasn't your loan originally, and you were done with it.
If you mean by transferring it, the responsibility transferred, then the answer is yes.
You had no further involvement with City Center, did you?
No, I did not.
I have no further questions.
All right, you want to take how long are you going to take this?
More than 5 minutes,
Well,
whatever your honor desires.
You
don't
know
want to
what?
go on, you want to take a break?
Well,
you like to proceed or with this one? All right, let's go ahead.
I'll try to keep it to 5 minutes or less. How's that?
Would you like me to turn this off?
Let's go back to the issue that you were just discussing about over budget and behind schedule. Weren't you also asked in your deposition on page 183?
Objection, Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes.